Talking to some of the best names in contemporary Christian music. This is the Hope FM Artist Interview.
And welcome to this week's episode of the Artist Interview, a podcast from Hope FM, also on our partner stations worldwide. And I'm very pleased to welcome to the very first time to the show, the Abrams. And I've got to say, they've got some absolutely cracking music. But before we meet them, let's hear this first track. And this track is called Fine.
When I'm going kind of crazy, you get me back on my lazy. You got me feeling like everything's gonna be fine, yeah. Everything's gonna be fine. Sipping on the summer, a heart banging like thunder. You got me singing like everything's gonna be fine, yeah. Everything's gonna be fine, yeah.
And that was Fine by the Abrams. Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey, good, Gordon. How are you?
Very well, thank you. So you're James and John, so together the Abrams brothers, and you've been making music for quite a while now, actually. I'm looking at you thinking you look quite young for actually the period of time you've been making music for. So tell us a little bit about your story, both in music, but also your faith story as well, if you're happy to.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when we got started very young, we were in a family band, the Abrams family, when we were really little kids. We were 9 and 11 years old when James and I started touring on the road, playing mostly at that time bluegrass and gospel music. And that was really the beginning of our family band. Our family band in the 70s with our grandparents' generation, we're actually the fourth generation in our family out on the road touring and playing music. So if you go back a couple...
Where's your family from?
We're from the Kingston, Ontario, Canada area. So we're about 2.5 hours from Toronto. And so, growing up playing with our family, our great grandparents, our grandparents, our dad and grandparents, and our mom sort of helping out. And then James and I, we have this long history of gospel music in the family, gospel and old country. And our family got really into bluegrass and that kind of end of country music when we were quite young. And so James and I started as sort of this sideshow on our family band gig where we'd get up for 2 songs, and it was this sort of novelty thing where the 2 young little boys would get up and sing a couple songs together. And quickly that sort of grew into the entire show over time. And we, were passed the torch and took it sort of into a career for ourselves. And that's really how we got started.
Wow. Okay. So you're obviously a multi-generational band in some respects with it going down your family. And are all your family Christians? Has it been something that's been part of your heritage?
Yeah. So absolutely. We grew up and the first songs that we sang were in church, and we learned how to sing harmonies in church. And so it really was something that we were exposed to when, growing up, but also as we got older, that becomes continuing in that walk is something that you have to make a decision for yourself about. And so that absolutely happened for both John and I. I don't want to speak for him, but as we grew up and, got exposed to high school and post-secondary education, I mean, there's lots of different ideas about life that you learn in those scenarios that for John and I, or for me, I'll speak for myself, made me connect with my roots and turn to those roots and my Christian faith when, there's lots of different ways that people try to describe living your life. And for me, it really became clear that those principles that I learned at an early age were the rock on which any sort of positive interactions with other human beings and uplifting moments, that all came from that rock of my faith. And John can kind of speak to that.
Well, that I think is so well said, James. And that's really how we have founded and continued to found our career on our faith. And even if we play predominantly country music now, I mean, we, put out songs on the radio, here in North America, streaming worldwide, and even some radio stuff overseas. And we've toured now for over 20 years, all over North America, Europe, Israel, about 6 times, back to the UK. And one of the beautiful things about country music that we have found is that no matter if you're singing gospel country or secular country, there's this common thread of community throughout country music. And no matter where you go in the world, country music was born out of people on, say, Sunday afternoons, just like we did with our family, all throughout, the southern US, who couldn't afford to have a piano in the house. And certainly this was before record players were even around. They had banjos and fiddles and guitars, and they would get together and they'd sing old gospel music and music from the mountains together. And that was how country music was effectively born in many ways. And so that's a big part of the root of James and I with our family singing and playing gospel. That's why it translates to continue to be our foundation every time we go out and sing songs on stage. And our friends and fans at Big Church Day Out know this about us, that faith is in our writing and our songwriting. It's also just in the themes that we bring to the show of community and congregation and connectedness in all of the songs and all of our moments that we have on stage with the crowd. And those are completely connected in many ways to the theme of country music and what country music means to people that we've found all over the world, no matter whether you're from the southern US or you're from the Sea of Galilee in Israel, or if you're from southern England at Big Church Day Out, these themes of congregation and community are universal. And I think that's one thing that James and I have always found in country music that has drawn us to our faith even closer.
And John, speaking of Israel, I think that is a great example of one of those moments where, you're sort of reconnected with your faith. We went over and played, and we ended up playing this festival that was on the Sea of Galilee for, was it 6 or 7 times?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And the first time we went to play, it was in our teens. And to be able to play music on the Sea of Galilee in front of a mix of all sorts of types of people coming and connecting over music. And at the same time, obviously, being very aware of all these very incredible miracles that happened in that region. That as a teenager really impacts you, So this moments like that throughout our career, music in a lot of ways has helped us immensely with our faith, and just because of amazing experiences that we've been able to have like that.
They are definitely out of the ordinary sort of experience.
Yeah.
You talked about community in that, but can I just ask, as brothers, sometimes when I know people who've got brothers and are brothers and things like that, it's not always the easiest of relationships. And yet, looking at the two of you, you look like you're probably great friends as well. Is it something that being brothers has just made it easy doing this together as a band, or does it make things more complicated sometimes?
Speaking for myself, I would say easy, and I think it's because of one specific thing for us. We grew up together doing this from a really young age. Like we have if you think about it, relatively speaking, we have very few memories before we were working together, playing music on stage for a common goal. And I think, James and I are different people. We have our moments, but what we didn't do was we didn't grow as individual people and then try to form a band. We formed a band before we even figured out who we were as people, and grew up together in that with a common goal and common sort of vision in mind all the way. And I honestly, I think it's because we got started so young that we grew so close in our creative partnership together. And that's a really special thing that we certainly cherish, is that amount of time that we've had to explore our musical roots and then figure out what we wanted to do with those roots in our adult life. And, we've really found a home in country music, because country music is so diverse in so many ways that it accommodates so much of the story that we have of being 4-generation musicians playing this kind of roots-based country music. But yeah, we're brothers. So we have our times. James and I both drive our own tour bus when we're out on the road. We have a bus, and one of us will drive, the other guy will sit up front. But most of the time, what we're doing is just like power laughing up front, driving the bus, and telling stories and recounting moments that we have actually. I think one specific thing is we have had so many moments together out on the road that, you could just we could just sit here for days and tell stories, which we do, like on our podcast, on our YouTube channel. We go through all these sort of stories where we'll just get power laughing about the stuff, the crazy stuff we've encountered over the years. And it's just simply because we've had that shared experience. I think that it's like the glue between us.
And I choose to think of it in an optimistic way. I mean, those things that we have as brothers that keep us honest and I look at them as constructive. And and in fact, we named one of our early albums Iron Sharpens Iron. And I kind of, I think and it was most likely, I can't remember exactly, through our parents where we learned that obviously through scripture as well. But I choose to think of us being brothers and having those sorts of moments as being constructive.
Totally. So we hone each other, I think.
Yeah. And it pushed us to get better at whatever we are doing in life, whether it's our instruments, whether it's performing on stage, whether it's whatever in our lives. I look at it as a positive thing. Those brotherly moments, I think, are a good thing. It pushes you to try to be better, I think.
Totally.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I think that I'll probably get people complaining if I don't ask the next question, because you said that there were many funny experiences that you had together on the road. And I know that our listeners would probably like to hear one or two of those stories.
Sure. Oh, sure. Well, I mean, you encounter all kinds of different people out on the road that make you laugh, like, and that you just go, man, like these cast of characters that you encounter on the road,
Well, the bus breakdown in Wyoming is it's funny.
The
now.
bus is its own character on its own.
Yeah. So you could briefly tell about breaking down in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's two brief stories. I will try and keep them brief because otherwise we could sit here.
He can talk forever.
I know. But so we were coming home from a tour and sometimes certain folks who work with you, they want to get home sooner than others, and that was sort of the case here. And so we were coming back, and we had a driver at the time who, lovely guy, but very, very, trying to get home, a little, maybe taking the shortcut kind of thing. And anyway, the bus was having some trouble at the time. It was an old engine. And when I say old, I mean like over 1 million miles on that engine. Well, and we went through a part of Wyoming that is, I mean, Wyoming is the least populated state in America, and this was the least populated part of the least populated state in America, and went up a mountain on a switchback road right to the top. And this was in the middle of the night. And when we got up to the very peak of the mountain, the bus quit. Ooh. And it broke down in such a way that you could not fix it on the side of the highway. So to make a long story short, we were at the top of the mountain for 18 straight hours with limited food and water and no cell service, except for if you walked to the peak of the mountain, there was a fence post up at the peak and you could stick your cell phone on the top of the fence post with it on speaker. Oh, I know you couldn't make a call. You could only send one text at a time.
Wow.
Off this post. And I had to hitchhike about 15 miles down into quote unquote town, which was 86 people in the population of this sort of like little corner. And I hung out in a lady's house who I didn't know all day, trying to use her phone to get towed off the mountain. So that was one. The other one was a story that we talked about on our journey in the state, another tour in the States. Talked about this on our podcast, where in the bus, sometimes you go into a parking lot that has a big I-beam where it'll say, you can't be taller than a certain height, like a truck, to come into this parking lot. So we got into this Walmart parking lot underneath the first I-beam, looking at the height measurement, going, oh yeah, we're good. But unfortunately, somebody had set the I-beam going out of the parking lot a little bit lower than the I-beam going in.
Even though it read as the same
That's
height.
right.
Yeah.
Somebody didn't measure it correctly. So sure enough, we drive under this I-beam, big, huge, steel heavy I-beam out of the Walmart parking lot. And it crushes the satellite dish dome on top of our tour bus. So I had to, we all kind of drew straws, and I, of course, drew the short straw. And I had to climb up on top of the tour bus while our driver drove slowly, and I had to lift.
John power lifted
deadlift this
insane
200-pound steel I-beam while he drove the bus forward, and I slowly walked backwards on top of the bus, like a James Bond movie. They're walking on the train. Yeah,
it was really impressive.
Yeah. And anyway, we got the I-beam over the edge of the bus, but that's just a little kind of taste of like all the crazy encounters we've have.
We've left band members at rest stops, and there's millions of things.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff, but usually the bus is the best character.
Yeah, that is amazing about the beams. So when was that year wise?
Oh, like 10 years ago, I think.
Yeah, 2013.
Before everyone had mobiles to film it, because otherwise that would definitely be on the internet somewhere.
Oh, no, it's true. Yeah.
That's true.
It was in the early days of the iPhone.
Yeah, that would have gone viral. So that's great. Okay. And what's been the place that you've most enjoyed playing and why?
Oh, well, I mean, there's two. And we've often said this at each of those locations. We talked about Israel already. But Big Church Day Out, and I'm not just saying that because we're interviewing with you. We've said that to the Big Church Day Out crowd before. There is something absolutely remarkable and special about the audience that goes to see the shows at Big Church Day Out. It's a diverse group of people from all kinds of backgrounds, faith or not, who come to this incredible hangout. Where people just feel supported. I think that's one of the best things about Big Church Day Out is that you see people in the crowd, whether you have gone to church all your life or you're just coming to big church and hearing about this faith thing and hearing about these Christian bands and saying, I want to hear a little bit more. Every time we look out to the crowd when they're all singing in unison with us, and with their hands up in the air, and there is a sense of congregation. There is such a sense of belonging that happens with everybody there. And that's the same thing we hear time after time after time whenever we go out to the album table, which we always do after to meet and greet with people. They say, there's no show like this where we feel like we belong and feel accepted and loved and embraced anywhere else in the world. And that is something that we have found isn't that right, James? Something very special.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's kind of, the type of music that we bring to the table, we're quite aware that it's a unique thing that we're kind of bringing to the festival, because we come from, a different kind of background in music and all sorts of things. And so I think that in particular is an example of what John's saying about how there's really an overwhelming acceptance there at Big Church Day Out, because I feel like in a lot of ways, we didn't really expect that, when we first played this festival, how our style of gospel, bluegrass country music would be accepted. And, it was just the love and support to be different in our own way. It has been shocking, really, it's been really amazing. And I think just speaks to what you're saying.
Well, I mean, because if we talk about, we don't really play very much in the Christian rock circles or the Christian pop circles. And, a lot of the songs that you'll hear us play at Big Church Day Out aren't gospel songs. They're just songs we've written that have obviously a lot of faith inspiration behind them, but they're not necessarily about love or they're about, about relationships or whatever. But I think that's the thing that we do is at the festival, as James is saying, we kind of have the crossover after party stage where, we kind of have a mixed bag of stuff that we'll play. And I think it's a really special testament to that festival, I think, in that they have opened their doors to anybody and everybody, come as you are. And that spirit exists very strongly. And every time we leave, we feel full and completely engaged in ways that we, don't always get. I mean, we love our audiences everywhere in the world, but that is a very special thing that happens at that festival.
Yeah, I've got to say, I've not been there as many times as you. I found out. How many times have you guys been there?
Oh, I think it's been like 6 times or something. Like
Yeah.
again, we started this like almost 10 years ago. We started playing at this festival. We watched it grow into what it is now. I think there's like 40,000 people there now. When we started, it was maybe 15. It was still, I mean, it was big, but it wasn't massive. I mean, it's really become, such a big crowd for a reason. It's wonderfully popular for a good reason.
Yeah.
But for any listeners that are maybe on the fence about going, let me tell you, this festival is, one of, as we're saying, like the most special festivals that we've ever seen in our lives around the world. And, after a couple of years of, difficult times for everybody, to give some support to this event, I think is like, it's very, very critical that everybody supports in the way that they can in these next couple of years for live music in general. But this festival is an incredibly special event. And I think it's really worthwhile to support special events like this, like really special festivals.
Yeah. I think this year is going to be a doubly special year. For anyone who's listening right now at home thinking, well, when is this and where is it? So it's in Whiston Estate, which is in West Sussex in the UK. People do travel from around the world. Obviously, you guys come from Canada, but even people who are just coming as punters come from different parts of Europe. And it's on the 3rd and 4th of June. Give me a second, guys. I've got something going beep, and I've got no idea what is going. Don't know what it is unless it's coming out of this Big Church Day Out thing that I just popped up. Let me just mute that.
Your studio's in reverse. It's backing up.
Yeah. So, okay. So,
Deeper. Nice.
I'll mute that there. So it's gone. Great. Okay. So cool.
Yeah.
Carry on. Sorry, you're going to say.
Well, no, I was just going to say, and you mentioned it's on Whiston Estate. Like, if you just want to feel like if you want to just feel like you're in Downton Abbey walking around at a festival, I mean, that's, like the closest thing you'll get to that. I mean, we're from Canada, and Whiston House is actually quite special because it's where our armed forces use it's as a base of operations, as we understand, before the D-Day invasion in World War II. So it's a very there's a Canadian connection with the place. But honestly, being fans of, I'm a big fan of like anything Regency era or Victorian era TV show, and movies, romantic movies, that sort of thing. And so Downton Abbey was always right up my alley. And so every time we go over to this incredible estate, if you just want to come to see the scenery, you will be very happy.
Yeah. It is absolutely beautiful. In fact, am I right that you guys get to stay in the house?
Yeah. We've stayed every time. It's really great.
Yeah, you see, so if you're on the radio crew, you get to sleep in a tent. But I will say, it's still a lot of fun. So that's good. I think you're at the more luxurious end, but it is very well organised. And there's obviously all the things you need: showers, loos, loads of catering. It's loads of fun, no matter what age you are. So, and I've got to confess, I made a mistake because when my kids were quite young, I went, "Oh, there's this thing called Big Church Day Out. Should we go or should we not go?" And I went, there's probably not going to be enough stuff the kids will enjoy. And I thought, it costs this much. Yeah. I wish I'd start going sooner because I've got to say, it's absolutely awesome fun for all the family and loads of stuff to do. So, and loads of different sounds as well, because you mentioned that you're a bit different from the normal stuff. This year, the Brilliants are going to be going. Do you know the Brilliants?
Oh, yeah. I've heard the name for sure. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, they're going to be going. And they're also a different sound. They've got a full orchestra.
Oh, cool. Wow. I love that. That's great.
So it should be exciting. Well, I say they got them coming. They're not. They're inviting people to join their orchestra. So
what?
So we should to actually make it live on stage. You get to see the music beforehand. So that's an unusual thing to do, but pretty cool. Okay, so moving on from Big Church Day Out, though, you got another track for us, and this track's called Something Real. It'd be wonderful if you could tell us a little bit of the backstory to the track, what it's all about.
Yeah, and I think this goes on the theme of what we've been talking about. Mainly that, James and I grew up playing a style of music that is very much about, and certainly bluegrass and old time country has always sung about good times and difficult times. The sort of the feast and the famine, if you will, like the getting through difficulty and trial, and then hopefully coming out with some hope on the other side. That's often been a theme in old time country and bluegrass. So it continues to be a theme in the way that we write songs today. And it makes sense because James and I, having been on the road, I mean, we just told a couple fun stories, but we've had lots of difficult times out on the road. When you're away from family and you don't have, you're a little bit farther away from that rock, as James calls it, that rock, which is your consistent faith, and I shouldn't say your consistent faith, but your supporters in your faith, the people that you love, your friends and your family, the people at home. Can get lonely when you're out there. I mean, our band members are phenomenal. They have become like family in many ways, but the bus gets small and you get a long way away from home sometimes. So this song, we wrote with a great writer, Josh Dorr in Nashville. And we got talking about that. We just sat there and you go in with an idea about what you're going to write for a song. You have a bunch of hooks in mind. And we just sat there, and this wasn't a hook that anybody brought. It's one we just came up with in the room, because Josh started telling us about some of the, stuff he'd been dealing with his significant other. And, James and I started talking about, some of the tough times, coming through those and then also coming back together and being stronger. We just got talking about that and how it affects us as artists. And then just this whole idea of something real, and always searching for something real, whether it be in your relationship or James and I on stage with our fans and friends and in the crowd. We're always looking for something real to help us get through the hurt so we can heal from it. And that's what this song is really all about.
We got something real, something true, the way it feels when I'm with you. It won't always be alright, but we're the ones that fight to make it work. We hurt and we heal. We got something real.
And that was Something Real by the Abrams. And I'm very pleased to say that James and John are still with us here for the artist interview. Guys, thanks for all that you've shared, and thanks for that beautiful song, Something Real. It'd be wonderful if at this point you were happy to pray for listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. Lord, thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to spend some time with the listeners today. And, coming out of 2 years, Lord, as you know, I mean, we've had a lot of difficulty. We've seen a lot of difficulty. We've seen a lot of pain and loss, and certainly COVID, but the situation in the Ukraine is no different. When we are constantly inundated with stories of people no longer having loved ones to share their lives with, and no longer having the people that support them most in life. And so, Lord, help us cling to the hope that we have coming up at these shows like Big Church Day Out, or any of the touring we're doing, and any of the different family gatherings, friends gatherings that are now possible amongst the listeners out there that are here. Lord, help us to cling to the hope that we have in one another, and cling to the hope that we have in being able to share our lives together. Something that we have taken for granted. It's easy to. I know, Lord, James and I, we've always been so thankful for the opportunity to connect with people and play music on stage and get to meet people after the show. But I don't think we really knew. And I think the same can be said about all the listeners out there today. We didn't really know how good we had it until we had it all taken away from us and not being able to be together. So, Lord, help us optimistically look forward to this summer. Help quell and keep away any fears that will prevent us from being able to resume relationships that we may feel like we've lost as a result of the last 2 years. And help us come back together and support one another in your name. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. If you're listening at home and you're in the UK and you're thinking, I'd love to find out more about this God that they're talking about, and you don't currently go to church, just pop along to www.findachurch.co.uk. There are many churches that would love to welcome you and help you find out more of God's love. And if you're listening elsewhere in the world, just reach out to the station you're listening on and ask them, can you recommend a good church, one that can help me in my Christian faith? I'm sure they'll be happy to make that recommendation. So, James and John, thanks for all you've shared so far. Thanks for your stories you've got. It's great getting to know you a little bit. It'd be nice to know, other than Big Church Day Out, which clearly is the big thing in the calendar for this year, what else are you going to be doing? You've got some new music coming, haven't you? Is that right?
We have a new album that we recorded in the last year, and so that's coming out. And we have a lot of shows. I'm not sure if we're able to talk about them yet.
We know we've got a US tour coming.
Okay.
Yeah. And
so that's really exciting. It's been a long time coming, getting back out touring in the US again. And that'll be the start of the touring for this new project. And so everything will sort of snowball off of that.
And Spain, we've never been to Spain before. We had a show lined up for 2020 that's been bumped twice now, but we're finally getting to go there. And we're very thankful. We've had a great year. We were able to sign a management deal with a phenomenal management company out of Nashville, partnered with some agents of ours up in Canada called GPS Management, a really great crew of people. Talking about congregation, we're just growing that congregation around what we do and the team that believe in us, day by day. And we're very thankful for that. So that's been a really special development for us of late. But I think most importantly, and James is touching upon this, like getting out and touring. I mean, the fact that that's the first thing that James thought about talking about is so true. I mean, that has been so obviously absent in our hearts for the last 2 years. And we go and record, and we go and we put songs out on the radio as for us, it's a means to an end, not for every artist. They love that. For us, it's a means to an end to be able to get out and tour and be in front of more and more people and get to personally connect with people. And that's what this music has always been about for us since the very beginning at 9 and 11 years old, touring with our family. So getting to do that again this year is going to be huge. And it's turning out to be one of the busiest years we've ever had. I think probably because everything is starting up. Everything that's been we were supposed to have has been bumped, and we're building more on top of that. So it's exciting. I
can see the excitement in your faces. So I got to say, I'm really pleased.
Oh, and sorry, I would be remiss if I didn't also mention. And this is for anybody who's in the Rochester, Kent region in England. We have another one of our favorite shows at Rochester Cathedral, the famed and legendary Rochester Cathedral. We have now a few times had our own shows there where we're actually putting on a concert for anybody who will come. Tickets are actually on sale right now for our show at Rochester Cathedral on June 1st. And it's great because a lot of people from Big Church Day Out often end up coming over to Rochester and watching us again and getting, more time together. And so it is a gorgeous, gorgeous cathedral with an incredible history in a beautiful town. And if anybody is interested in coming to watch our show at Rochester, that's it's Big Church Day Out and Rochester. Those are the two shows that we're doing in England.
So June the 1st. So that's immediately before Big Church Day Out, isn't it? So
yeah, just right before. Oh yeah, so it's the other way around. So Rochester folks will come over to Big Church.
It's a little primer,
little taste. Yeah,
it's the warm up, just to warm up,
just a warm up.
Yeah, warm up for the weekend.
So where else in the UK have you been when you've been over here before?
Yeah, so we've really tried to tour around as much as we can. So London, quite a few times. Manchester, right, James? Mm-hmm. Leicester at the Musician. There's a great club there.
The Borderline in London.
Borderline in London a few times.
Which I think sadly might have closed.
I think so, yeah. The Slaughtered Lamb was another place in London.
Yeah.
A couple things in Manchester, although we also did Big Church Day Out when they had the North location. So we really tried to make our way around and sort of have really found that after a few tours, the UK fans are just amazing for country music and
for live music in general.
For live music, you're right, James.
Yeah. Out of interest, so when I was thinking about it, you're from Canada, but you're bluegrass country music band sort of thing. Do you ever get sort of like a surprise reaction? Because I wouldn't have gone, there's a really big country music scene in Ontario. Now, I may not know because I've never been to Ontario, but I always associate it with South America, not the country South America, the southern part of the States, I should say. So,
so since the beginning of country music, there's been many Canadian country stars. Hank Snow was the first one. And I mean, he goes back to basically the beginning of country music. Bluegrass is, you're right, it's more of a in the Appalachian Mountains and in the eastern part of the US. And so that is closer geographically to where we are in Ontario. And I would say it's very kind of similar from a cultural standpoint, like the I would say the sort of people that live in those areas. But John can but yeah, you're right. It is a little different, but as I said, there's all Canadians have been involved in country music since the beginning.
Well, and there's a huge, I mean, we have our own country music organization here in Canada. The awards are in June, CMA Ontario. If this answers your question at all, Shania Twain is from Ontario. Ontario. Oh, okay. So it's like, it's very special. And honestly, it makes a lot of sense because like we were saying, these themes in country music, the themes of appreciating the simple things in life, the things that really make life special, that you keep close to your heart, and times with family, times with friends, good times. Those sorts of themes, regardless of whether you're rural or urban, are very universal. That's why, let's put it this way. Take Me Home Country Roads by John Denver, which is certainly a folk country song, a great folk country song. There has not been a place on the planet that we have played where the entire crowd didn't know the whole song, that'd be able to sing along with it. And that goes for parts of Europe where the crowd doesn't really speak very much English, goes for all of Israel that we played. Everybody knows that song. And I think that says something about, the universality of country music in a way that, at first surprised us around the world. And now we're not surprised. Now it's like, oh yeah, right. Of course they know this one. So
yeah, that is fair. I suspect myself and most of the listeners just went, oh yeah, we all know that song. And it's probably the most thing we know about West Virginia is that's where the country road will take us. So
that's right.
Yeah. So, okay. You mentioned family in amongst that response. And what's your favorite thing to do when you're not doing music? 'Cause obviously musical family. What's your favorite things to do with your families?
Well, we've always had dinners at on the Abrams side, and on both sides, but that comes to mind. There's this kind of house tucked into the woods in rural Ontario, almost out of like a book or something. Like you drive down, it makes sense. Yeah. A couple kilometer road. And then you come around a corner and there's this kind of like magical little house in the woods
that our grandfather built.
And we would go there in the summer times and, that our grandfather built. And so having dinners at that place with our family around that table, obviously music is kind of a part of that because we always have a jam session afterwards in the living room. And that's really some of the first exposure of how we heard our family playing music was in that living room, watching our parents or our dad and our grandparents play music. But really just even without the music, just sitting and being together at that table and having food together, I would say is, yeah.
And, my wife, James's fiance, they're getting married in France here next month.
For the listeners at home, just to be clear, his wife and James's fiance are separate people. In the sentence there, it sounded like your wife, James's fiance. Yes. I was confused.
Yeah, just to delineate that. Yeah. So my wife, Alex, and James's fiance, Kyla, are a huge part of our life. And there's no question about that. And so, a big inspiration to our writing and have always, we've been together with them respectively, for a very long time each. And they've always been so supportive of what we do, both creative on their own, certainly. So they absolutely have that relatability to what we do. And so it's really special. We do cherish, because we go away for long periods of time and tour, we do cherish family time when we come home. And that is, that's excellent. And certainly I am a bit of an outdoorsman myself. I know James is too, but I really like to go on camping trips and hikes and, and just, anything woods related,
I could help you out with that. At Big Church Day Out, I will have a tent. And if you like, we could swap so you could be outdoors.
Oh yeah. Good. Right. Yeah. No, you go in the house. I'll take the tent, and wow, you got me there.
Yeah.
Thanks, Gordon. You got me there.
All right. Outdoorsman.
Okay, outdoorsman. We'll put that in the test. Let's really see.
It's cool. And what does your wife and your fiance do?
Yeah. So my wife is, she works at our university here in admissions at the MBA program, the Masters of Business program and administration program, excuse me. And she's also a singer-songwriter. So those are sort of the two worlds she operates in. And Kyla
has her own business, but also works at a law firm as an assistant to a lawyer at the law firm. So which is great. So they're like us, we're the consummate millennials. We have 8 different jobs and we're kind of bouncing around from one thing to the next and constantly multitasking. But that's, that's been really special that they've been a part of this journey for us as we've kind of moved onward with our music career and been so supportive.
So cool. And James, when are you getting married then?
I am getting married in less than a month, over in France, actually.
Oh,
so unfortunately, I can't be in England. But
well, no, but if you're getting married in France, your honeymoon could actually be at Whiston House.
It could be. Although we're going to Greece, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
You know what? You could have saved me a pile of money right there. You could have saved me a pile of money.
James, look at James's eyes. It's like, gee, why didn't I think about that? Huh?
Yeah, I know. What a great honeymoon that would have been. So
both Kyla and Alex have been to Big Church Day Out, and they can attest. They came back saying the same thing. They were like, wow, okay, that we've never experienced a festival like that before. Yeah. That was like next level. I mean, both of them came back saying that, so, wow. That's not just from us as performers. It certainly, we're on stage, we get the energy, but they were there as supporters and spectators. And they said, no,
it's worth it to go. And there's something, as you were saying earlier, when you kind of were on the fence about whether there'd be stuff for everyone, there's stuff for everyone. We're a testament of that. We kind of bring a different flair, and as a couple of the other bands that you mentioned that are going to be there that do things a little differently, there's stuff for everybody at this festival.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and my problem is going to be, because there's stuff for everybody in different places, and I want to go to everything.
Yeah,
I don't know what I'm going to do. It's going to be crazy trying to work it all out.
Well, but come for the weekend.
Yeah, I'm there every day. So if you two, here's a question, right? So you got to answer it for each other. If you were Bible characters, which Bible character would you be? But you've got to answer it for your brother.
Well, there's a pretty obvious answer to me. I think, to some degree, and we kind of use this branding early on, and not by us. Our dad thought of it and had it on T-shirts, but and John, you can speak to it. I guess it's kind of hard for us both to answer for each other.
But, I think I know what you're going to say.
Well, John and James, the disciples.
John and James, yeah.
Right. But the sons of Zebedee, bows of fire. The phrase. What's the phrase again?
Yeah, exactly. Well, iron sharpens iron, as iron sharpens iron, but like we sons of thunder,
sons of thunder.
Yeah. So Zebedee,
sons of thunder.
So our dad used to be he would tour with us, and he really ran the show. Like, he was like, when we were little and we weren't able to do things ourselves, he and our mom for sure, but dad on stage with us really kind of run the show. And so we often said, but if we're the sons of thunder, then dad is thunder. Like, he's like, get out there, boys. Come on, let's play music.
But sons of thunder, bows of fire was what the phrase.
That was our T-shirt. We had sons of thunder, bows of fire, because we both played fiddle, and that's how we got started. But no, I think, but there is something about John and James as characters, though.
Yeah, I do.
Their devotion to follow And I think also the fact that, they were, working guys, like they were working people that kind of, put in their hours every day, and then kind of,
and then they'd tour around,
and they'd tour around, and they'd, like those disciples. And I think particularly John and James, that makes sense for us, but, they were essentially the equivalent of the touring musician, right? Like they went from town to town and they spread the word with Christ and spread the good news and created congregations and connected with people but also it was tough days and they had to kind of like go without lots of times. And I mean, that's James and I
run on faith
and run on your faith when, fuel is low and maybe the certainly the money isn't great and you got to sleep in a Super 8 hotel that's like in the middle of nowhere. It hasn't been updated in 40 years, whatever, you know what I mean? Like that kind of grit, grind, get out on the road thing is what we live. And so I think that's probably the best answer is, those disciples, really had to do that. And
well, thank you, John, for saying my answer was
your answer is great. Well, because it would be my answer. So look at us being supportive.
Yeah. That actually was a really interesting answer and a really good one. So I know people often answer like David because of all the singing and all the rest of it, but you guys came up with something totally different to what I might.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. No, it's. I think it's the blue collar appeal to me of the disciples. Like just like get down to work, and that's what we do. So
brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Okay, so what is this beep? I have got zero. Can you hear it at your end?
No, we can't
really. No,
we can't. I can't hear it at all.
Okay, that's good. I there's suddenly this loud beep, and I'm like, what?
Something might be out of battery or something.
Is it your smoke detector? You got to check those regularly, right?
No. It's this side of my desk. It's fine. It's fine. As long as they can. Luckily, it was just the right moment. So
we'll just change while you're at it though, change the battery in your smoke detector and your carbon monoxide detector. You might as well.
It's always a good tip. So yes,
always a good tip, right? You don't think about it.
I've got a little app for mine that bings me when they're time to change.
Oh, so, look at that! I'm still running on the old plastic model where you got to stick the double or the 9-volt battery up in the thing with the broom.
That's that's the broom thing. So it's funny you mention the broom because my parents have got one in their kitchen which often goes off, and then when it goes off, my mother-in-law, she runs and gets ear protectors and then runs with a broom and then uses the broom to press the silence button. So that's that is what you need to do when your smoke alarm goes off.
So that's how I roll. I don't know if it's safe, but it's how I roll.
We've definitely digressed from the standard topic, but if you're at home, please make sure you do replace the batteries in your smoking carbon monoxide detectors, just in case this might be the fault you need.
Talking to some of the best names in contemporary Christian music, this is the Hope FM Artist Interview.
So if people want to find out more about you, where should they go to see what's going on?
So we are on all the social media apps that ever have existed. But our handle is at the Abrams Music. And you can find us on Instagram. We recently joined TikTok. If anybody watches TikTok, there seems to be a lot of people on that app. And so that's at the Abrams Music as well. We have Facebook and Twitter. Those are the main ones we're on. And on all of them, it's at the Abrams Music.
Yeah. And also YouTube. James and I have been doing, we've been doing a podcast. We have 2 seasons in now. We're planning our 3rd season. Not sure exactly when we're going to do it, but we're going to get to a 3rd season. But we have like a long form. Each episode is an hour. You can just hear us rambling. If you really just want to hear us talk about stuff forever.
We go quote unquote off road.
We really go. Yeah, it's called Off Road with the Abrams, and we really go on tangents and go off road and completely like in wild directions. And then of course our website is theabramsmusic.com, and that's a good central hub for finding out more information. So
brilliant. And for anyone who wants to spell that in a search engine, it's ABRAMS.
Perfect.
Abrams. So fantastic. We've got one more song to play from you guys, and the song's called Sounds Good to Me. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, we've talked about loving and appreciating the simple things in life, and that's this whole song is all about that. It's about all those little things that just like warm your heart, and so that's really what we wanted to get in with this song is just, and I think now more than ever appreciating that. The world feels very complex. You feel inundated day after day. with difficult news, sometimes you really just need to step away from it and take moments with the simple things and the little simple pleasures in life to remind yourself that, you can get through this stuff. Anyway, that's kind of what I think.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, James and John from the Abrams, thanks so much for joining us for the artist interview. This is your track. Sounds good to me.
Thank you.
Like a screen door swinging about 5:30, and we ain't got no plans tonight. The way you wear my hoodie, girl, it fits just right. Laid back on the couch, side by side. We say I love you and I love you more before we fall asleep. Sounds good to me. Yeah, that sounds good to me.
And that was Sounds Good to Me by the Abrams. And thanks so very much to James and John for joining us today for the artist interview on Hope FM. And there are many other artists and interviews that you can enjoy with loads of great stories and great music too. And you can look those up on your favourite podcast platform. Just search up The Artist Interview. Thanks so much for joining me, Gordon T. I look forward to joining you again next time. God bless.
Talking to some of the best names in contemporary Christian music. This is the Hope FM Artist Interview.